into the matter for the hour. On Friday, on Friday, we got, of course, the report that the Court of Appeal had given a judgment, and the judgment was related to the seizure of allocation and funds to the Rivers State government. Remember, we have been talking about this since sometime in October, and we looked at it from different angles, the possibility, all of it. And we were told by the different lawyers we had in the studio that the judgment was in reaction to what had transpired at the Court of Appeal concerning whether to present the budget or not before the Martin Ameode-led assembly. And so the petitioners decided to take it to Justice Joyce Abdul-Malik, correct me if I'm wrong, and then she decided to say, hey, CBN, Zenith Bank, Access Bank do not release funds to the Rivers State government until they have presented the budget before the Martin Ameode-led assembly. Now, we're also told that a four-man assembly cannot and should not, be an assembly, so to say, where the budget will be passed. So let's take a look at what the newspapers reported. Remember, we were told, just give me a minute, we were told on Friday that the High Court lacked jurisdiction, and that was one of the reasons why the matter, if not the reason why the matter was struck out. However, I do think, and that's why there's a lawyer in the studio now, I do think the substantive matter was not dealt with, which of course is the issue of whether the budget should have been presented or not, and if the budget was not presented, what should have happened or what should happen. I don't know if the Court of Appeal lacked the jurisdiction to try that matter, given the Court of Appeal had already tried the matter. But we have a lawyer, and we'll be looking at all of these issues. I mean, I've got a lot in my head, a lot of questions, but I don't have enough time. Living Jamala is in the studio, is a Port Harcourt-based lawyer and an in-house analyst. It's good to have you. Welcome.
Thank you, Kalada, for having me. And thank you, Rivers people and beyond, for listening to Nigerian Info.
Right, on Saturday, we reported the appeal court in Abuja set aside all orders restraining the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Accountant General of the Federation from releasing funds to the Rivers State government. Now, the three-member panel presided by Justice Aman Baka held that the subject matter was not within the jurisdiction of the court relating to the revenue of the state. While allowing the appeal of the Rivers State government, the appellate court also set aside all the orders made by Justice Joyce Abdul-Malik, stating that it was unconstitutional for her to make orders restricting Rivers State government to receive funds due to the state from its consolidated revenue fund. It held that the lower court overreached itself and didn't have the jurisdiction to entertain the matter. You would recall that in October, Justice Abdul-Malik of the Abuja Federal High Court held that the receipt and disbursement of monthly allocations since January this year by Governor Simnalife, where it was a breach of the Constitution and an aberration that must not be allowed to continue. The judge held that the presentation of the 2024 budget by February before a four-member Rivers House of Assembly was an affront to the constitutional provision. Welcome once again, Livin.
Thank you, Kalada.
What is all of these about? In your understanding as a lawyer, how are you reacting to the Court of Appeal's judgment?
Kalada, the Court of Appeal decision never came to us, like to me personally, as a surprise, because we've heard this argument some times ago, and my position has always been straight. Despite political leanings, professionals must learn to present their arguments with respect to what they know about the law and rather than pleasing one or two paymasters. And fine, if you look at that, we have held the view that the jurisdiction of the Federal High Court in determining the state law was never what Section 251 of the 1999 Constitution contemplated. Now, the Court of Appeal was so direct to the fact that the relief sorts. If you look at any of these and according to your claim, and the plaintiff is the Federal High Court has a jurisdiction.
When it comes to it's the Federal High Court looking to these matters.
When it comes to the determination as to the issue of whether or not the seat of assembly member is vacant.
So it's different from
different from the principal issue subject of discourse is that whether the Rivers State government haven't not presented a budget to the Egbule-led faction and has been spending money. In other words, the state has been spending money without, to their own understanding, without an appropriation law.
Yeah.
And so that alone was the essence of their going to court to say, hey, you cannot continue to spend the money. But remember, I've also heard the argument that the provision for the sanction for holding a governor responsible for spending money without approval is not the withholding of funds.
Okay, yeah,
by any court of law.
You've made that argument, but let's come in here now, Living Jamala. Now, once again, we're going back to the assembly because the assembly is the primary source of this confusion.
Yes.
And it is that, hey, these people defected. And so could the court have looked at it and say, oh, if that is the argument, then maybe the Federal High Court did have jurisdiction?
Ordinarily, whatever the court will hold in the circumstance, if the court is seen to have lost the jurisdiction, everything decided upon it is a nullity. And that's what the Court of Appeal did. There was no need going into the substance. Whatever they have done, though going into the substance, will be what we call an obiter in law. It holds no force of law.
Okay.
And so, having decided that the court lacks that jurisdiction ab initio to look into the claims of the plaintiff, then the suit ordinarily is dead on arrival.
So what then happens to the other Court of Appeal judgment that did say that the governor did exceed his capacity as governor to not have presented the budget before the Martin and Egbule-led assembly, which of course made the petitioners or the claimants go to the Justice Joyce Abdul-Malik.
I would say it was the stress of not discussing the legal issues, because remember that matter is before the Supreme Court. So we will not be looking at having sub judice. So will not be tried for discussing.
But I'm just wondering, that Court of Appeal judgment still stands because there is no stay of execution as at this point.
To my knowledge, there is no stay, but the matters are before the court of the Supreme Court, and ordinarily parties should maintain the status quo. So
if a matter is before a court, a higher court, it means that it nullifies automatically the judgment from the lower court?
To a relative extent, parties are advised to maintain status quo ante bellum. In other words, before approaching here, what was the status?
So what was the status of the Court of Appeal judgment, if I understand?
Are you not?
No, I'm trying. I'm not a law student. I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand what you understand, and that's why I'm asking these questions. So, if you say status quo ante bellum, that means what it was before you approached the Supreme Court, and what it was, in my layman understanding, was the Court of Appeal judgment, which is taking us to the Supreme Court. Is what it is.
And what was the Court of Appeal judgment, if I may ask?
Like I said, it talked about not presenting the budget before Egbule, which now resulted to going to the Federal High Court to enforce it. That was what they were enforcing, if you remember.
Yes, that was what they intended to enforce. Okay. And assuming that the Court of Appeal held so, is it something that you can enforce to ask, what is the penalty, Canada, for spending monies in the state government, spending monies without an appropriation law?
Okay.
I have said it is not the withholding of funds. The court, even the courts, cannot ask that the government, assuming that matter was brought before the state high court that has a jurisdiction to entertain that state laws, the penalty for spending funds without appropriation is provided for in the Constitution. It's not the withholding of funds. So assuming the Court of Appeal also said so.
So there are celebrations on one side of the divide in Rivers State. So you're saying, to an extent, it's not yet victory. It's just, striking out the case for lacking jurisdiction, but the issues that took us to the court as Rivers people are still there.
The issues are still there, and some are still pending before courts of law.
No, right, interesting.
And so the principal issue that they ordinarily would have celebrated and having achieved the topping of allocation is what is struck out in the circumstance. But other issues as to defection, as to whether or not the budget was properly presented, is still pending.
All right, so this is just about allocation of fund, and specifically for that. All right, interesting conversations. You can join the fray. Remember, it's all about you. Of course, without you, there will be no show. So, I'll roll out the numbers. 0817-923-00002. After the break, I'll take calls, by the way, but not now. I'm just running out the numbers so you can keep them somewhere safe. and get ready to share your thoughts on this issue. 0817-923-0002, 0817-923-0003, 0817-923-0007. Okay, I'd like to hear your thoughts, but let's quickly look at some reactions. Human rights lawyer Femi Falana hailed the judgment of the Court of Appeal, saying that the judgment, as well as the earlier judgment by the same court that validates the recent local government election conducted in the state, are in line with the tenets of federalism outlined in Nigeria's constitution. Mr. Falana, in an interview, explained that what the Court of Appeal is saying is that involving federal agencies or officers in cases concerning revenue, local government elections, or internal affairs of a state government does not grant jurisdiction to the Federal High Court. So, looking at this as an example, what are some of those other cases, talking about issues in River State that were filed using the fact that, because federal agencies were, what's it called now? What do we call, mentioned or cited, so for that reason the Federal High Court has a jurisdiction.
The issue, let's take for instance the issue as to defection. The Constitution made it very clear that it's the Federal High Court that has jurisdiction to determine whether or not the seat of an assembly member is declared vacant. So bringing in INEC, bringing in maybe the police or the DSS, as they have done, ordinarily INEC is a necessary party in the circumstances. So, or you must bring in INEC. So, because the subject matter that has to do with defection, the Constitution has provided that clothed the jurisdiction of the Federal High Court. It is that court that has a jurisdiction. Bringing in River State RISEC, for example, will not clothe River State High Court with the jurisdiction to determine whether there or not there is a vacancy in that place. And so, some of these cases were properly instituted before the appropriate forum. Some, which the court have so held, were not initiated through the known process of law.
Do you agree with the Commissioner for Information, Joe Johnson, that the people who went to court over allocations committed judicial terrorism?
I have heard this view even before the Honorable Commissioner for Information made his own view known to the public. In the sister program, in the sister station like yours, I heard the view that first, removing law out of it is immoral.
It's immoral.
For a citizen of River State to ask any authority whatsoever that the funds that my grandmother should be used should be paid pension with, the funds my own mother should be used to pay.
Let's pause that. Let's pause about the funds for your grandmother. We'll go for a quick commercial when we come back.
Nigeria Info. We'll be right back.
Right, 29 minutes gone past 4. You're still listening to 92.3 Nigerian Film. The show is Hard Facts. I am Kalada Kuru Batipo, and with me in the studio is a Port Harcourt-based lawyer, living Jamala. I was hoping that Godspower Egbule would join us, but unfortunately, I think he's very busy at the time. In the course of the week, we'll get his opinion on the very issue. But I'm about to go to the phone lines. Remember the numbers I have there. I'll call it again. 08179230002, 08179230003, 08179230007. And there is the WhatsApp number 080903064116. I'll also be looking at your messages via Facebook, and I'll take your thoughts therein on X as well. I would take your thoughts. But, Livin, I was asking you a question just before the break.
Yes.
And I was saying, do you think the Commissioner of Information, Joe Johnson's thoughts are accurate? He said it's judicial terrorism, the attempt to block funds to River State. And you have argued it's not constitutional, just like Falana argued. But, is it terrorism, so to say?
While the Honorable Commissioner for Information will hold the view that it is judicial terrorism, I am of the opinion that is morally wrong for true sons of River State to initiate an action that will prevent their own grandparents who have toiled this number of years serving the state, and that their pension should not be paid.
Interesting.
It is also morally wrong that my dear parents, mothers and fathers, siblings, relations who are working with the River State government should not be paid because they are asking an institution of government to withhold funds legally, rightly belonging to that state government. And so what is the interest? Why should your own personal interest? Are you undoing the government of the day, or you are undoing the people of River State? So from whichever angle you look at it, from the legal angle, from the moral angle, you see there is no justification as to that action.
So what should the claimants have done? What I mean, because they feel aggrieved, and you lawyers would argue, if you're aggrieved, go to court.
For wherever there is a wrong, there is a remedy.
Okay.
The appropriate thing for the claimant, the plaintiff, to have initiated in the circumstance is provided for in the Constitution. Kalada, please do not place me in a position to advise my enemies on what to do in this way.
But see, we're learning.
Yes,
I'm sorry. I'm asking.
We are learning that I think in the holy books, the Bible tells us that your enemies, God will make sure that your enemies will continue to wallow in confusion.
But you see, we're learning, and sorry, I'm not on any side, so I don't have enemies, and so I'm asking for
the fact that some persons were of the view that monies ordinarily that should be used in paying advert in Nigerian info should be
come on now.
It has affected your interest.
Whether you say it like that or not, I don't have enemies. I'm on no side. Whether I'm thinking, because the claimants are the legislators, the 27, and if they have gone to court and the court is saying they don't. Anyways, let's go to the phone lines so I don't, bring up my disorganized thoughts. 08179230002, 08179230003, 08179230007. We're live on Facebook, Nigeria Info PH. We're live on YouTube, Nigeria Info PH. We are active on X, Nigeria Info PH. WhatsApp number 080903064116. I've got Lawson. Lawson is calling from Yenigua. Lawson, welcome.
Kalada, good afternoon. Greetings. I greet the lawyer that is with you, living Jamala.
Good afternoon,
Jamala.
There's something about him that I don't really. I don't know. I don't want to express it.
Let's just get your thoughts.
He is just too one-sided. Now, that judgment is in two parts. Yes, they say you cannot withhold allocations and all that. You can also not present budget to 4 people. Living here. Did you say anything?
No, I'm listening to you. The sound is coming from your background.
Living Jamala now is legal part. Is dealing with only one side of the judgment.
But he said no. Lawson, I asked the question, so I know what he answered. He said if anybody feels it's a foul of the law, that there is a constitutional way to go about it.
I even answered
And
the fact that
he said that.
there is what they call obita in law, obita.
Okay, go ahead, Lawson.
See, I listened to him.
Okay.
Now, what
I
the
listened to
governor
him
has
as well.
done is simply violating a part of the constitution. Living Jamala cannot tell me that the governor is in violation for not presenting the budget to the entire House of River State House of Assembly. He won't say that. But
Lawson,
Yes.
Lawson, it's not an argument, it's not a fight, it's a conversation, right? So just calm down. So he said,
You said what?
He said, if you listen to me very correctly now, he said that the matter is before the Supreme Court and he's waiting for the Supreme Court judgment. That's what he said. So he did.
The matter is before the Supreme Court agreed. But
Okay.
it is the High Court judgment and that of appeal that has been taken to the Supreme Court. But for now, status quo of Assembly members
Okay.
are recognized.
Yeah, welcome, Qatar.
My name is Ayiba Godspower.
All right, welcome.
I want to create an impression made by Jamala. Nobody is against allocation to be released to River State. You should know that. No, when we are coming on air to have a position on a public matter as this, we should, as always, especially as lawyers, as always, stand on the side of the law and not emotion. Jamala is statically diverting or deviating from other clauses or paragraphs in that judgment of the appeal court. That says that the appeal court still recognizes Martins and Egbule as the Speaker of the River State House of Assembly. They went on to say that it was wrong for the governor to present budget before 4 persons, that there remains a forum at an assembly. And Jamala is here telling us that allocation has been released, that it will be that people that went to court are against River State. How? When a governor has decided to go against the law, when the governor has decided to exhibit executive rascality, it's not good. In fact, as it stands, the governor should be held responsible for anything that will make the civil servants in River State not to receive salary.
All right. So Godspower, I've gotten your thoughts. You're saying the lawyer is not. They think you're biased, by the way. But quickly, before I go to JJ, I've got the Commissioner for Information via the phone. I've got Joseph. Welcome show. So quickly, you're telling me now about fee. Can I get?
Good morning. But let me even expand it. I'm saying that judgment said it was wrong to present a budget.
Hello, are you there, sir? Are you there, sir? Oh my, I'm at. Okay, I think network issues. I get back to him, but let's get to JJ from Port Harcourt Township first. JJ, welcome. What is on your mind? I'd like to hear.
Canada,
Yeah,
good
quickly.
Afternoon.
Yeah, good
You are
afternoon.
wonderful guest in the studio.
Good afternoon, sir.
I don't know why people are so confused. What was the subject matter before the appeal court? Oh, they said they can collect the money, but they cannot spend it. How? Oh, now nobody went to appeal court again. Nobody went to court again. Somebody deposed that case at Justice Joyce at the court. I was even saying that you have a case already emanating from the Omotocho's court at the Supreme Court. What was the matter that they cannot wait for Supreme Court to finish that matter so that they can now give their own judgment? What was the order all about? And now people are not telling me what was the subject matter before the appeal court emanating from Justice Abdul-Malik. This is since reverse allocation. And true to that, we applied for, they said no, let us hear the case by its merit. Now they said, no, you cannot seize it. And people are not coming to tell you, Martins Amewule, no justice Amewule. How? So for me, they have lost out and they have lost out for good. And I say, God bless you, Mr. Guest in the studio. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, JJ. I've got Alioze. Alioze, welcome. It's really an heated conversation. Anyways, welcome on the show. Let's get your thoughts, please.
Good afternoon, man of the people.
Yes, good afternoon to you.
Man of the people, if you recall last 2 months ago when this issue came up, I told you that Justice Joyce judgment will not stand because you can see some people seize the money, and you didn't say in that same order that civil servants in Rivers State should stop working. I am not coming from angle of law. I am coming from the angle of moral. Because even the Holy Scripture says that any person who is working is entitled of his wages. So for me, that judgment, I'm not seeing it as a surprise, because I know those who are working, putting in their strength, should go home with something at the end of the day. You see, this person is coming saying the judgment is against this, the judgment is against that. I ask them one question. If what you do for a living is a civil servant, let me say you, your wife or your brothers, and somebody is saying they will owe it for so how many months, let's consider the economic implication it will have on us. As for Martins and Egbule, I keep on saying those persons are a group of persons who are arrogating their self-relevancy. Rivers people have get rid of them. They should understand that. And I'm even calling on the governor to pass the 2025 budget to Viko Jumbo. The opera will continue. Don't know why we are pushing this thing of 27 persons against the over how many million persons living in the state.
All right, thank you very much, Allocation King. I've got the Commissioner for Information back on the phone. The network wasn't clear at the time. So yeah, you were talking about the 4 members and the passage of budget. Welcome back, Jared Johnson. Let's get your thoughts, please.
Yes. Even though without prejudice to what is before the courts, both Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court, Section 102 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria states that a House of Assembly can continue to function even if there is a vacancy in its membership. I stop there.
All right, but Joe Johnson, there's the issue of forming a quorum. Do you agree?
Listen now.
Okay.
I'm a legal scholar.
Okay.
I talk and I've spoken for Rivers State government for more than 1 year.
Okay.
I'm not too sure there is any moment that I've spoken out of point or out of context.
Okay. All right.
I'm saying that there is a quorum. Quorum is a determinant of those who are present.
Okay.
If I have a family of 20 and 19 people have died, okay, 19 will just be left to one person. If I have a family of 20, 16 died, 4 people are left. I'm not proposing death for anybody.
Oh, of course I know.
I didn't go to say 27. I'm saying if I have a family of 20, me, Calabria, Andrew, and Egbule are left now. Me and you, boys. Is it not so?
Yes, of course.
You tell me, a boy, 3 boys, 1 lady. It means that Angie Kalela is now the daughter of the house, true or false?
Yeah, it is, of course. It is.
Good. Between me, you, and if you and me, whoever is the oldest is the first son. Simplicity. Now, we're saying that there is an assembly where 27 lawmakers on their own volition defected. Nobody removed them. And the law in our constitution says in 109 1D that if you live, and the word if in law is under probability. But if Ifeanyi Kala needs to go and do work in today, that he has lost his seat. He said, no, you didn't lose your seat, you lost your seat. All those ones are before the jury. Now, the remaining persons, Section 102 is saying, Section 102. I don't know if you have it before you.
I have a lawyer. Go ahead.
Jamala is there.
Yeah.
I'm happy that Jamala is there.
Okay.
Section 102 is saying that in an assembly, you can even sit with non-members of the assembly. Are you hearing me?
I'm listening to you.
In an assembly, you can even sit. Let me read. I read the first phrase. Section 102 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria states that the House of Assembly can continue to function even if there is a vacancy in its membership.
All right.
Now, the second stanza where my interest is, and I want you to interpret it is. It also states that the presence of someone who is not entitled to
sit.
that is if me and you go to the assembly and they make a law that it will
invalidate the proceedings.
It also states that the presence of someone who is not entitled to be there or participate in the proceedings of the House will not invalidate those proceedings.
Okay, I'm listening.
And resolutions.
This is class law. It's class law. It is law. And it is
so basically, because I've got to go, my time is almost up. Basically, you're saying.
Don't go, Canada, don't go. You provoke me. I was listening to you. I want to eat a Trumpet Smith. I'm going to snap it and send to you. I'm saying that.
All right.
As Commissioner for Information, the matter you're discussing is that I said, look, what they did to Rivers State was judicial terrorism.
All right then. All right.
Terrorism because you cannot stop those who sell small business, those who run small salons and all that, but they shouldn't get anything.
All right.
Out of a country where you have 36 states and one as capital, and we are the predating state.
Okay, but really, I do have to go. I've got commercial in not too long distant time.
Don't go and leave me. I'll go with you.
Oh my goodness! So, do you agree with the Commissioner for Information?
I agree with him, although I think he has professed having some judicial
knowledge,
legal knowledge.
Okay,
to the extent that, remember, you were even asking about quorum, and I said what constitutes for quorum is determined by the legal member of the House. And I took you far away at those states. What transpired when then Governor Obaseki, proclaimed the assembly at that time. Whether some persons will hold a contrary view is what the law. That is why the law is being tested.
But what do you make? What brought about this issue of quorum and 4 is what Lawson had earlier said.
Yes.
Lawson from Yanigua, and he said, okay, fine, there are 2 parts of the judgment. Don't withhold funds, but hey, 4 people cannot.
I stated in the introductory part that for whatever decision a court gives, lacking jurisdiction, once the court determines that the lower court lacks jurisdiction, whatever, no matter how brilliantly given, is a nullity. What the Court of Appeal did, having found that the lower court lacked jurisdiction, whatever pronouncement that the Court of Appeal did in the circumstance is what we call in law an obiter. It has no force of law, and therefore you cannot even enforce that decision, recognizing Egbule and co in the circumstance by the Court of Appeal is an aside.
All right. I want to take 2 more calls, so I don't know if you can hear me. 0817-923-0002, 0817-923-0003. I'll take 2 more calls and we'll wrap things up. But before I do that, let's take this one. This one says, based on the matter on ground, I think if we're to consider an enemy of River State, if allocation was without, I think we have to consider an enemy of River State if allocation was withheld from the state. It should be, he said, the governor who refused to respect constitutionalism by presenting the state appropriation bill to his friends in place of the River State House of Assembly. Section 91 of the 1999 Constitution has altered states that the House of Assembly should not be less than 24 members and not be more than 40 members. I agree to Jamala Fiaga. Do you agree with that argument?
The argument of
by the way, is your friend.
Yes, the argument of Emmy is speaking on one-sided aspect of the law, and you do not read the law out of context. Your understanding of the law shouldn't be out of context. There are other provisions of the law. The Honorable Commissioner for Information, though not a lawyer with a grounded information or knowledge of the law, has given us Section 102.
All right.
I think my friend Emmy,
so Section 102.
Yes.
Does it also does it in any way say that it shouldn't be 24 or 40?
Section 102 never talks about the valid least or higher number of the house. It said, because there is a vacuum, I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
The Honorable Commissioner talks about that. That the non-presence of some certain members of the house cannot stop the functions of the assembly.
House. Oh, interesting.
Of the house.
All right. This one says, did I just hear that nobody wanted the monthly FAC allocation of the state to be seized. This same thing that was loudly talked about, these people should repent and work for the interest of the people of River State who have perceived them as wicked because of their actions. Now I'm going straight to the phone lines to take one or two more calls. 92.3 Nigeria Info. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yeah, quickly your name, location, your contribution then.
Good evening. Good afternoon.
When the assembly members are talking about when they are going for cities, they are sending letters to other assembly members, but they refuse to come. I want to thank the appeal court for the judgment. That was yesterday. Yesterday, they've done well.
All right.
Please, one man cannot press River State by telling people to rule allocation, and River State will suffer. Man.
All right.
So God has brought light for River State, and the light will shine and shine forever. Thank you very much. God
all right. Thank you very much, Honorable Leader. I missed that one. Do call back if you can. 92.3 Nigeria Info, your name and location.
Hello, my name is Bernard Odiki. I'm calling from Port Harcourt town.
All right, quickly, you've got 1 minute. Quickly, I'd like to hear your thoughts, please.
All right, on the issue of quorum, that which has already been established, for now, River State House of Assembly is made up of 3 members. And those 3 members are functioning. Now, talking about the court order that was given earlier on by Joyce Abdul Malik, which she relied mostly on matter brought before her by the Martin and Egbule-led group based on a motor show's judgment. The court of appeal was very clear on that. That everything that they came to pray based on jurisdiction is a nullity.
All right. All right. Then.
So I don't know why people are still breaking their heads.
All right. Then.
And worrying themselves.
All right. Thank you.
Let them wait.
Right.
Let the Supreme Court decide on the earlier whatever decision of the Court of Appeal, which was a fallout of the motor show's order.
All right. Thank you. I've got to go. I've really got to go. Jamala, time is up. But quickly, what do you think is safe for the governor at this point? 2024 is done with. There is a talk about a 2025 budget. The last caller just reminded me we have just 3 members now, not 4 anymore. What do you think is safe? Should he go present the budget before 3 members? What are your thoughts?
The governor has been treading on the path of caution, treading on the path of the law. Why some of these issues are still pending in the court of law? Necessity comes into play. The governor cannot wait till some certain period when some persons who feel the state can now function, then go ahead to function. I'm of the view that the governor has the powers, and since he has been acting within the confines of the law, to also continue in that trade. All
right then. But the Court of Appeal, not this one, the other judgment, did not think so. They thought he should not have, presented it before.
See, Kalada, even when Omotosho gave that judgment, I said that judgment was given in an environment, supposedly, whether there was no defection. But when the facts are brought to the bear that these persons are actually defected from their seats, then that judgment will not stand.
All right. So there is Joe, who is a namesake of Joe Johnson, who's saying what Joe Johnson said